Windows Phone Central Podcast, episode 146 for August 8th, 2012. Hey everybody, Daniel Rubino here, joined with Jay Bennett for another Windows Phone Central Podcast. Haven't had one in quite a while. Sorry for that date screw up there. Jay always writes the date backwards, or perhaps it's normal for the rest of the world with backwards.
Oh, that's normal for Europe, or for England anyway.
Yeah, do you say 8th of August? What?
Yeah, 8th of August. So same as you have 8. I mean, today doesn't work because today is 8/8/2012, but like tomorrow would be 9/8/2012, and for you it'd be 8/9 for some reason.
Right, I get that point. It just reads weird. Anyways, welcome to the podcast, and it's been a while, so we got a lot of news to catch up on this week. We'll try to keep it to the point and on topic, but there has been quite a bit since we last did this, including that big Windows Phone SDK leak and other news, including the build announcement, which registration went live today and then quickly went unlive. Jay, how you doing? It's been a long time.
Yeah, not too bad. Actually, apart from rubbish shift patterns, I'm actually enjoying the Olympics in London and feeling very happy because I overcome a massive coding problem that I've been having for a week today with trying to get forums into the app. So I'm very happy because we can now actually log in through the app.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all good. What about yourself?
Not too bad here. For people watching us live, in case they're wondering about our video, that's Ustream's end, not ours. So we're trying to fix that as we can. But sorry about that. Hopefully the video might be better for the actual podcast when it goes up onto the site. But other than that, I'm hanging in there. Been busy with the site and lots of stuff going on, obviously, this summer. So let's, I guess, delve into it. I just got a real itchy nose. Hold on.
That's all right. You go ahead. Actually, just because of that story, because I'm curious, you mentioned some things have been stolen. How much have you lost?
Oh, right. So a couple of weeks ago, I went up to Canada for to meet with the rest of the editors for the sites. And on
Where was my invite?
Yeah, on my way back, there was a lot of flight cancellations and diversions, and it was a real hectic day. It took me 18 hours to get home, and in the process, my luggage was, of course, lost. I never check luggage in, by the way. I never recommend you do that. But in this case, I was forced to gate check it twice, and then they, sent it to the wrong airport, of course. And upon me finally getting back a couple of days later, I was missing 2 Windows phones, a video camera, a webcam. Luckily, my laptop was surprisingly still there. I guess no one wants a Lenovo. But my laptop charger was gone. So all that is, I guess, gone. I'll probably never see it again. So American Airlines and JFK, thank you very much. So that's why this week I'm surprisingly on MacBook Air, which is a little odd. I've never owned a Mac before, and I never bought a Mac before, and I still haven't. I was given this. So, but in this case, it actually paid off well since it has a built-in webcam, and my Lenovo does not. So other than that, though, I'm dealing. I did lose my Focus 2 Lumia 800, which I was pretty disappointed with. I love that Focus 2 a lot, But
another one.
Yeah,
it's not like you don't have. It's not. I mean, how many Windows phones did you have before this? It was like 14, 15, somewhere in that region.
Probably 14, 15, yeah, around there. So
I think you're okay, mate.
But I like the Focus 2 a lot. It's one of my favorite phones. Anyways, let's head into it with Windows Phone 8 SDK came out. So we've actually had a lot of info on this SDK even before it went public, but we couldn't, of course, talk about it. But that's where a lot of information we had did come from. And
now we can.
Yeah, now this SDK leaked out in China somewhere. Someone put it up. Actually, what happened was someone gave the access code to the server where anyone could download it. And so lots of people did, and then Microsoft pulled the plug. But, of course, it went viral, it went out there. So the SDK, for you guys who don't know, Software Development Kit, it is the basic ingredients and recipe book for making applications in Windows Phone. So for developers like Jay, it is like literally a recipe book. They flip through it, and they learn how to do stuff. SDKs take a very long time to put together. It's a lot of documentation, and they have to basically think of everything a developer would when making an app. But in there, of course, since it's Windows Phone 8, has a lot of details about new features. They do have a basic overview of those new features at the beginning, but it's pretty brief, right? It's not written for consumers; it's written for devs, so it requires an eye to go through it and try to figure out all this stuff. So, Jay, of course, you've had a chance to go through it. What do you think of what you've seen so far?
So there's some really exciting stuff, and I'm going to ask for forgiveness now because I'm sure I will forget several of the things that I've seen. It's now been quite a few weeks, but there's some really exciting stuff with regards to what we're going to be able to do. The number one feature, which I sort of alluded to and kind of sort of accidentally leaked a while back, but we didn't make a huge deal out of the fact that we'd leaked it, is this ability to communicate between apps. So at the moment, there's no way for developers to, for example, send off, trying to open a protocol or open a file, but actually, instead of having the app deal with it, send it off to another app to work out. So, for example, the thing that I'm, where I want to use this is Windows Phone Central. We all know that the YouTube integration isn't great in our app. And the idea is that you can just say, right, go to this YouTube link with whatever protocol, and that would actually get picked up by someone like SuperTube or MetroTube or someone else, and they can just, bam, take that link and play the video for you, and then you'll be able to return back to our app. So it really does mean that we'll start to see some cool third-party apps coming in that will be able to sort of take over responsibility for certain areas. And for us, just another area it could be used even in the web browser. If we've got something so simple as we want to be able to click on the web browser, open this article in Windows Phone Central, the app, and you'll be able to click it, it'll open a protocol, and the app will be able to pick it up and say, boom, here's the article you're looking for. And I'm really excited by that, as sad as it is, because I like the idea of actually, it just means there's one less level where apps aren't silos, and that's the problem at the moment in some areas. Apps are silos. Yes, we can bubble up information to the front, and we can put stuff on live tiles, and we can do searches, and there's a lot of very cool stuff that we've got in the current version of Windows Phone, but there's still no ability for apps to hand off between different developers. And the fact that we will be able to do that in Windows Phone 8 is huge news for me. I think that's my favorite feature I've read. What about yourself?
All sorts of things. The lock screen notifications, I think, is going to be pretty cool.
That's a pain, actually. There is one thing in the lock screen notifications. We didn't mention it in the article. That picks up from the tile count. So the only way for that to work, the developers have to use the default tile count. They can't sort of do a custom one like we've done. Right. So for now, for example, you'd have to use that little black circle with the number in it. If you wanted to use,
it's supposed to be a black square, right? With Windows Phone 8.
Yes, you're right. Yes, it's changed in Windows Phone 8, but you have to use that one because that's what bubbles up to the lock screen notification. You can't effectively come up with a different way, which is really annoying. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, isn't it the case that also, though, instead of just a notification, you can have the story show up or some information that shows up in the tile as far as the notification? I thought there were like three or four options.
Yeah. So, there'll still be options kind of like we have now, the way that I'm reading the tile. But the problem is that you'll need that to bubble that up to the lock screen, to the lock screen notification. You'll need to set the number on the app, on the counter, and that will then bubble up and appear at the bottom, kind of like text messages and emails do right now. So from my understanding, you need to use the default tile count SDK. Otherwise, that information won't bubble up. I'm saying bubble a lot today, but I like that word.
Yeah, lots of bubbles. I thought there was a lot of interesting information. Of course, the maps thing we talked about was, Nokia Maps will be there. And so there in general...
Let's talk about offline maps for a second, because that was one of the other big things that we got. Obviously, with Nokia Maps taking over the responsibility, they're actually passing over responsibility for developers to choose to download maps offline. So rather than having to provide their own offline mapping solution, they'll just be able to say, right, download these map tiles for these areas that we need, and boom, that'll be available to that app offline, and presumably available then to the user offline when they're just browsing maps. So it means that we'll start to see hopefully some better navigation apps popping up because they won't have to focus on their own maps. They'll be able to use the built-in mapping solution and just download any maps that they need for offline use later on. And that, of course, then goes into a shared cache, so any apps can access that offline mapping, and that's less space to use on the device. So that's a very cool solution that they've brought in as well.
Yeah, the mapping stuff is kind of neat. I also like the overhaul Bing got. Bing has always been a core part of Windows Phone, yet at the same time, it's never had that rich a feature set compared to, say, the online version. And now it looks like it finally catches up. We ran a story with a bunch of images, and in there they had Bing Local Deals, which is done via another company called Scoop-Ons. There's Bing News, of course, Bing Buzz, which has things for like movies. When you look those up, it gives you information about that. Bing Top Videos, Local Events, which sounds like something like an extension of Local Scout. Allow search from the lock screen, which is kind of, I guess that's always been there. Someone said it's already been there. Personalized suggestions. So for apps, nearby places, and deals, the app will start recommending things to you. That's an option, actually. And so Bing looks like, it looks like it's really nice with the big news and everything like that. It looks like things are going to be kind of really fully, integrated. There's the offline map stuff. The Photo Hub gets more options like edit photos, crop, rotate, fix. There's predefined aspect ratios, which is kind of...
Do you want to, speaking of photos, do you want to talk about lenses finally?
Yeah, so lenses is kind of neat. Not much focus has been on that, mostly because I don't think we've seen any real world examples. But so devs get this ability to integrate into the camera app directly. It's basically like devs can create a mini app within the camera, so that when you're in your camera app, you can tap lenses and it launches it's like a picker, which is another thing Windows Phone 8 brings, these pickers. And then pickers it's gonna give you a little display over the camera, and you pick which one you want, and then it'll alter the camera according to whatever that developer is advertising it can do. So you can do probably rule of thirds across the screen for photography. You can do different types of filters. You can do augmented reality, all that from within the camera. Meaning you don't need to actually go searching through the app, your apps, pick the app and launch the camera like you do now. Now you just go within the camera and you can just pick all your options right there. So it's a lot more direct. It's actually a really smart way. And, Microsoft has talked about extending the camera functionality big time in Windows Phone 8. And I think that's what we're seeing as evidence here with that. So, it's a pretty cool feature. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, the lenses thing will be interesting. I expected that to sort of tickle your fancy, being one for photography nuts. What else have we got? In-app purchasing, of course. We shouldn't overlook that. The way that it looks like that was kind of sort of talked about before with regards to how in-app purchasing was going to work, but we now have we can now talk about it a bit more. Essentially, there will be sort of one of two ways of doing it. You'll be able to sort of advertise these downloads for your app that you have to host on your own server, but you just advertise through Microsoft servers. And there'll be things like either consumables that people sort of download, let's say gold coins for a game, and then that'll go in and can be completely added, and they can just keep reusing them. Or they're able to download things like either sort of packages or unlock codes for, let's say, other parts of your app. So if you want to add on expansion packs to games, or in our case, let's say we wanted to add some huge bit of functionality forums, and we wanted to charge for it, which unfortunately we're not going to do, but I still kind of want to. We'd be able to do that. We'd be able to say, right, pay this little bit extra to get this bit of functionality added.
Let's make our app a freemium app, yeah.
a freemium app, yeah.
If you want the access to forums, you can pay us a little extra. If you want access to bios, I'm just kidding. The in-app purchase setting is a huge model change, and it's real important. Dev's been demanding this for a long time. It's a very popular model. It kind of reinforces my notion. My favorite model right now on the internet is this pay for what you think it's worth type model. Meaning, I think artists are best served by, instead of going through music labels, which as far as I can tell, and they can go right to hell. They're so outdated. I like the idea of a musician just selling me music directly. And more to the point that, I could volunteer how much money I want to pay them, because they're getting way more money than they ever would anyway. It's like they get 25 cents. So this idea you pay for what you want, is very successful. I remember when I was developing ROMs, it was all a donation ware, right? No one had to pay for it, but you set up a little donation button. People, if they felt like it was worth it, would give you some money. Even if it was like a cup of coffee, right? Didn't matter. And I tell you what, you actually could make a lot of money that way. It was actually it worked a lot better. And I like the idea in apps that or even games, that when there are features that you may want, you can then pay extra to have those, but you don't have to. I think it's a better model. I think it's a more honest model, instead of making people buy the whole package and then, maybe not using all of it.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's needed because we need to have ways of monetizing apps, and we can talk for ages about how everyone wants things to be free and everyone wants to sort of live in a world where they can get their phone and then just download infinite free expansions to it. But that's just not how it works. So it's good that we're giving developers another option to do that. But it also looks like advertising is going to go through some pretty serious improvements in upcoming Windows Phone SDK as well. But I don't have any more details about that. Last one I want to talk about from the SDK: proximity and Bluetooth. So proximity is kind of, I don't think we've talked about it too much, but effectively it's the idea of the NFC chip. Effectively, it's a way of using the NFC chip so you can communicate between between your app and another instance of your app. So the idea is someone's got two apps open, use NFC, bump them together, and they transfer information just like that. I believe that proximity also comes into some of the Bluetooth as well, because you could use it to establish a Bluetooth connection, obviously tapping the two devices together and then creating a Bluetooth connection. And it's sort of a one-off connection, so you could just tap them together and say, bam, here's my connection for a game that I want to play. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting thing. I can't see an awful lot for it past quick connections for sharing information or sharing contacts, or for sharing, let's say, a massive, a game or whatever it is you're going to do. I've lost my thought train a little bit there, as you can probably tell, because people are just saying that there's problems with Ustream still. Renee, have you got any more news on Ustream? Have you called him yet? Let's see if he's coming in. We'll get there. So yeah, Bluetooth is also coming up. The Bluetooth API looks like it's going to make it very easy to do discovery as well. So you can actually do Bluetooth discovery within the app. So I can advertise and say who's nearby. I want to discover this other app or this other person using this app, and we'll create a quick game together. So that's one of the requirements that's coming in. And also we'll be able to do app-to-device communication through Bluetooth APIs as well, which comes in with things like PayPal. They did that extension. You could swipe a credit card on it. You'd be able to do that sort of thing with a Bluetooth device. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in this.
You done ranting?
Not really. I could probably go on for the entire hour, but you better stop me.
Yeah, NFC stuff will be big. It'll be bigger once the mass market picks up on it, of course, and actually gives some real world value to it. The ability with Win 8 tablets to, of course, tap and share is pretty interesting. There's a lot of technology that still needs to be sort of evolved yet, but it'll be more interesting, of course, once we get this hardware in our hands. And I suppose that leads us to some of our next questions, which is what features did you want for Windows Phone 8 that we haven't seen yet? Now, this was, a lot of people are kind of like iffy on this thing. So first of all, people are like, well, we haven't seen all of Windows Phone 8 yet, so which is totally true. On the other hand, I'll be honest, there's probably not going to be too much more Microsoft's going to be able to reveal that we already haven't. People are running the full emulator now, and you can basically see how everything works. And so there are little things we're finding out, but for the most part, now it's going to be, looks like it's going to be what the hardware partners have to reveal. So having said that, we wanted to know what you guys thought they did right and what they missed. And we weren't the only ones interested in this. Actually, Microsoft is kind of interested in this. We've heard through our various connections that they were curious as to, because they know the SDK is out there. They know everybody's talking about it. So they just want to know what the vibe is, right? So we figured we'd do this two ways. We would first just ask you guys in the general comment section, what did you guys think? And then we took those and we kind of squished them together and formed like the 9 most requested features, and then ask you guys to vote on the top 3. Now, granted, I think all 9 people would have been gladly have accepted, but we want to get an order of priority, so that's why we only allowed you to vote on 3 of those 9. And in turn, we did get a good response. Actually, we had a very healthy response. Over 7,000 people responded to that. And so, interesting enough, Notification Center is one of the top requested. And I would say by far, people are kind of like trying to look at the analysis of the numbers, but I think it's pretty clear. Notification Center, and it was clear from the beginning. I knew right when we put that poll up, Notification Center would win because in comments it was the most requested feature by far. And so it's an interesting discussion. You have some people saying, well, people obviously just don't get Windows Phone then if that's what they want, and we already have a system with the start tiles, and that may
it's really
be
controversial,
true.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it may be true, but here's the point: it almost doesn't matter. Microsoft can continue to ignore what actually the market wants and is demanding at its own peril, or it can, give what people actually do want. I understand the argument that live tiles do a pretty good job and that the new start screen or lock screen notifications work pretty well too. But obviously people want the ability to perhaps like just slide left, right? To have a list of everything at one place. It may be redundant. It may go contravene some of the principles of Metro. I mean, that's fine, but what do you want? People, that's what they want their OS to look like and to do. And so I think it's up to Microsoft to come up with some way to, this is what Microsoft does, right? They pay people to come up with unique ways. They don't have to do the Android drawer pulling down. They don't have to do what iOS does. They can come up with their own twist on it. And I don't see why they can't do something like that. So hopefully they will. Some of the other top features that were requested, was the full backup, which was pretty interesting. Which I almost
it's understandable.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Although Windows Phone 8, in fairness, does bring in-app backups for settings and savings, I believe, with games. So there are some of that, but of course what these people are asking for is basically a flash image of the entire phone so that you can just restore it. There's some complications in that, of course, which is, hardware changes. But, that's presumably something they can do. We don't actually know if Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 can do that. For all we know, they may be, because that could tie into the operating system of your desktop. So that actually may be something there we don't know. The other one is Close App. This one, once again, Microsoft doesn't want to do this because they don't think people should have to manage their applications, which I totally understand. At the same time, they already have this model working with Internet Explorer and tabs where they have the little X and you can just close out your tabs. People always say in the multitasking window, which pops up, that you just put a little X in that corner, same thing, and you just close out programs and free up those slots because we only have 5 right now. Rumor has it Windows Phone 8 will have 7, but if you close out an app, you can actually free up a slot for keeping other programs sort of tombstoned there. So
let's talk about the Close App function at the moment. You say that Microsoft have said they don't want to put it out there because they don't believe people should have to manage their apps, and they are right in the fact that for most people, and that's 95% of users, they don't care. They just want to be able to switch to their apps and open new things and not have to worry about managing their phone. And actually, managing your phone with Symbian was one of the most frustrating things that you ever had to deal with, and even with Android, I find it frustrating. So I like the fact that I don't have to manage it. But it's about options, and there is one very valid use case, as you said. There's only those 5 slots that we can currently have, and at the moment, when you leave an app, it doesn't really stay open. It just a little snapshot gets saved to memory so that you can load straight back into that state. It doesn't take up any resources; it's just sort of ready to jump back in. But what the problem is that if you've got those 5, in the background, there's one that let's say you're on a game and you've had to open 6 apps between now and then, you're going to lose that game. So if people have the option to be able to just quickly say, oh, actually, I don't need those 2 anymore, and that'll make sure that the other state stays in memory, it's a very valid use case. And for that reason alone, Microsoft do need to add it. They also, on the subject of multitasking and background, they really need to change the way that apps launch. If they've already been running in the background and you go to tap on the tile, that shouldn't launch a new instance. That should resume the instance you were working on.
Right, I agree. That is really annoying sometimes. I'm not sure why that can't... Right. Yeah, that is probably one of the most annoying things, what Jay's talking about there. So, yeah, if you have the app running in the background and you tap the tile again, which is sometimes an easier way than just holding the back button and selecting, it relaunches the app from the beginning as opposed to just resuming what's already there. Hopefully that can change because that is pretty... annoying how that works. Other features that people had requested that we talked about were universal search, which we thought we saw at least in the early builds of Tango, but I think universal search is pretty huge. I don't get why that is or is not there, perhaps in earlier versions or Windows Phone 8.
What would it be that useful for? I mean, what is the use case for universal search? Just the fact that you can look for any. I mean, like your apps are to the right, your emails are. Granted, I'd like to search all my email inboxes at the same time, and I suppose if it's searching your message history and that kind of stuff, it would be useful.
It searches. I mean, it can search everything from contacts to messaging to documents. I think it's pretty valuable if you're looking for instances of something. Sometimes you forget where you saw something. It's about information management, right? It's about triaging your documents and everything, and trying to figure out. It's not my job necessarily to remember everything that I've come across on my phone. That's why we have computers to do the work for us. This is, I think, a pretty common task and feature. We have it in Windows desktop, right? You can search and it goes through everything. They have indexing, which kind of goes through. And that uses even natural language processing, which is pretty nice. Android has this feature, although it came under some fire recently with Samsung and whose patent it is and that kind of thing. So this isn't a crazy request, and it seems like an extension of just turning Bing and the search services within the phone itself. Maybe you want to find an app or something like that. I don't know. It just seems like, something that should be there for information management purposes. We live more complicated lives, and between searching, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, messaging, contacts, documents, all that, it seems like a pretty valuable feature. I'm actually surprised it wasn't higher ranked. It wasn't too bad. I think it was number 4 or 5. The other one was folders. I use folders. There is a homebrew application out there made by Jackpot over at Windows Phone Hacker. It's a really nice app. You have to sideload it, of course, but it's really well designed. Now, folders are good. We use them in this sense, or this is how I do. I have a lot of photography apps, like, probably about 8 or 9. Some of them are photo editors, some are camera applications. It's hard to keep track of them because you end up going into your applications. You have the alphabetical list, but I forget, how many things I have there. Instead, I can have a folder for a photo, and I just tap that, and it's just my photo editing apps and camera things. And it's just all lumped there. You can even do it for games. Sure, I have Xbox Live, or I can also pin individual games to my start screen. Why don't I just create a favorites folder where I could just put my top 5 games that I always play in that folder? You can do this for, music apps or media. So there's all sorts of little uses for it. I admit it may not be for everyone, but the ability to organize your applications besides just alphabetical and or the start screen is important. I know people with their start screen, they won't put more than like 10 tiles on their screen because they don't want that like long scrolling to have to go down. That innate sense of just keeping things clean and organized, prevents people from just having giant start screens. And so there must be another way for organization. I think including folders, or hey, if Microsoft wants to invent something else, a different type of model, I'm open to that too. But once again, that's up to them to solve, but I think it's clear that people do want that feature. So, these are important things I think that people, are talking about, and we need to seriously look at, or at least Microsoft does.
Yeah, so I think you summed it all up there. I'm not going to add anything to that. It's the notification center issue is still going to be a hotly contested topic, and we'll see how notifications look with the smaller tiles and the more busy home screen. But it's not, as people say, it's not about just seeing that there's a number of actions to be taken inside the app. It's about having the details of the notification in a quick viewable screen. So, we'll see if Microsoft heed our users poll, and we'll see what comes in Windows Phone 8. Speaking of which, do you want to talk about the Lumia Phi? Is that the right way to pronounce it?
Phi. I was thinking Phi. Yeah.
Phi. What about Pho? Phi, Fo, Fum? No,
so the Phi has been rumored for a while to be another Lumia phone, Nokia device. There's a lot of these. There's another one, Alpha Juggernaut, which who knows if that's even real. And that's a problem now, is that we're getting a lot of these names, and it's they could be easily faked too. So the deal here is this is supposedly another Lumia device. It was described as a follow-up to the 800, which may not be. It may also be a follow-up to the 900. It does supposedly have LTE on board. We heard it has a 4.6-inch screen, 4.65 to be exact, but it's basically the same size as the 900. So what they did was they kept the device basically the same size, but got the screen a little bit bigger. And I think
the bezel's tiny, isn't it?
Yeah, especially near the top. It is smaller than the 900, meaning that the screen real estate is used more efficiently. And that could also be done for, they could be using the 1280 by 768 resolution. So it's slightly longer. It's, I think, a 15 by 9 dimensions. And so that looks to be the case. And so the other big thing is it looks to have a curved screen, or at least at the very edges it curves. Now, this was a problem with the 900. Or evidently Nokia said they didn't do this on 900 because something with the glass and breaking, and it's true, if you curve the glass too much, it sets weak points into it. It's more prone to cracks. And so they avoided doing that with this size. So either they figured that out, and I think that's what they did, or,
it could be that because they've made the bezel that much smaller, they don't need to curve the glass as much.
Yeah, and so now if you want to see curved glass, and, our listeners know this, check out the Dell Venue Pro. That has a very curved screen.
You're still in love with that device, man.
It's a neat phone, actually, because it does stuff like I've never seen before. I mean, it has like a really curved glass. I mean, it's actually sometimes bad because it reflects light pretty badly too. But that could, of course, be avoided if it had clear black, say, display on it. but that's a really curved screen to it. So we'll see. But it has to do also with the fact that you use Gorilla Glass. Gorilla Glass is pretty hard. Gorilla Glass is scratch resistant, but it's also more brittle because of that.
Yes.
The harder you make a substance, the more brittle it is, which is sort of counterintuitive, but that's kind of how it works. It's more resistant to scratching, but direct impact, they can shatter easily. So those are evidently set. So that it's got dual core, supposedly LTE. It's we don't know anything about the camera. It does have a front-facing camera, presumably. And
Sorry, I've just been reminded by something. Of course, it'll have the external SD card slot. Someone in our chat room earlier asked us just to talk about the SD support in Windows Phone 8. Our understanding at the moment, and correct me if you've heard something different, but my understanding as well is that it will be SD cards will be used for one of three things: either for music and other media, photos to expand your camera, and will apparently be able to sideload apps using the SD card. We don't think at the moment there's going to be a file explorer or anything on those lines. It'll just be a case of you choose sort of in the settings where you want your music to be on the SD card or on the sort of inbuilt memory, is what I've seen. But you might know something different, Daniel.
No, that's my understanding too. It's an extension of media storage, basically, which I think is what most people are worried about. It's about putting music and photos and those kind of things, which do take up more space. Actually, apps are pretty tiny on Windows Phone. Surprisingly, sometimes games are pretty big due to the graphics, and they always will be. But compared to Android, I download like a Domino's Pizza app on Android, like 20 megs. It's ridiculous. It's so weird to think the size of these apps on Android sometimes, and then you go on Windows Phone, it's like 1 meg maybe.
Well, it all depends on the amount of photos. Because if you can do an app with photos, with images rather, if you can do an app with minimal images and no panorama backgrounds, it makes the app really, really small. And it's relying on Metro and vectors. But if you're going to go as far as having a couple of interesting graphics, it just starts to bulk up things, which is kind of part of the reason I think that a lot of Android apps end up being a little bit bigger, is because they tend to use some images just for how the UI is going to look, whereas we tend to rely on Windows Phone on sort of very simple, just normal UI parameters that don't require any images.
Yeah. So that's our understanding of the SD card. Yeah, so they would have to do that externally on the whatever this is, a Nokia 5, because it's going to be a polycarbonate unibody design.
I'm still going to call it Phi. I've decided. It sounds like it would be Phi.
Okay. It just sounds like charging and money, but a lot of people were kind of disappointed. So the other rumor is this, that we're going to hear that there's 3 phones being announced at Nokia World next month, and one of those won't be the PureView. So I'm going to get that out there now. And I think that's probably accurate, actually. I don't think we're going to see the PureView next month. I hate to be the cold rain here on everybody.
I'm really disappointed if that ends out to be the case, if they don't launch with a PureView camera. Because listen to last week's podcast, we talked about this before as to disruptive technology that's needed from Nokia.
Sure. No,
and
it'll
the PureView
come.
has the it needs to come with Windows Phone 8.
It will come with Windows Phone 8. I just don't think it's going to come. It's not going to come in September. That's all. Nokia has a launch schedule. They're not going to just put phones out in October and then that's it. We're done for the year. They're going to get some phones out there, and then they'll get more phones out there a couple months later. If you go back to what Nokia and Elop was saying, that they plan to release phones every couple of months, that was their game plan, that they're going to just keep pushing out devices. They're just getting started. The PureView stuff is going to take a little while because it's not just a physical hardware thing that they slap on, but they have to actually work on the back-end software stuff to make it work with Windows. And now the original PureView, they were working on for 2 years before it even came to Symbian. So the idea that they're just going to port it over to Windows Phone within a couple months, I think, is probably a bit of a stretch. And so I just think people should, maybe not expect that right now, but they should probably expect it by, say, the end of the year, more on it at least. But this device that was shown with the yellow one is expected to be one of those devices revealed. So people were disappointed that, it's not a new design, which is kind of a weird argument for a couple of reasons. One, the Lumia design, I'm talking about the 800, 900 here, is award-winning. It's very popular. People love it. We talk about all the time here how I think the Titan 2 is a better device, but the 900 is just awesome looking. And so it's a great design. So why wouldn't they continue it, just slightly refine it as they go along and improve it? It seems kind of obvious to me. That doesn't preclude them from introducing new hardware, and I think we will see new things. But the notion that they're just going to go, oh, the 800, 900 is awesome. It won awards. People loved it, but we're never going to do it again is stupid. It'd be like Paul making the Trio and then just dropping it. Well, actually, they did do that. But they did it after, of course, like 8 variations of it. But still, you know what my point is. And so...
Roughly, I get your point, yeah.
Yeah, but they'll have other designs. I don't know about a keyboard phone. You know how I feel about keyboards. I love them. I would love to have a Nokia keyboard device. But the fact is the market right now is pretty soft on keyboards, which is kind of a pun almost. But
oh, God.
Yeah. There's been talk of a twisting phone, maybe the N-Gage, which was a Nokia gaming device, but focus on Xbox. All this stuff could happen. So...
Here's the problem. Okay, do you really think Nokia can get away with launching a refined version of the Lumia 800 with what will granted be there will be some new hardware features? We'll have things like NFC, we'll have the dual core and the SD card support. But do you think they can get away with that simple hardware changes? Do we not? People who have already bought the Lumia will just be getting a slightly refined device with the full Windows Phone 8 experience. Is that enough?
This raises the other question, which this is what I love about our blogs and forums. And hold on a second here. I'm just getting a message. Which is people complain a lot about stuff. And so in this case, like the Lumia, people are like, oh, they need to do something different. And I generally agree, but then you ask for details. Like, okay, what specifically? I mean, we are ultimately talking about slab phones that are just giant screens. We know what the hardware is already out there. Dual core. Okay, you could do, I suppose, quad, but once again, we're not talking, doesn't actually mean anything in real world right now. The camera is the one area where they can really sort of do something different, but we ruled out pure view. It doesn't mean this device won't have a better camera. And mind you, this could have a pretty killer camera on it too. So I'm not really sure what else we're talking here. NFC, check. LTE, check. More RAM, check. Higher display resolution, check. Okay.
Keyboard.
Software keyboard. But I'm telling you, hardware keyboards don't sell. There's a reason why HTC just said recently, we're going to stop making hardware keyboards. It's not because they're awesome, because everybody's demanding them. It's because no one's buying them. So I need to get people, this through people's heads. I know you love the physical keyboard. I do myself. No one buys them. That doesn't mean they're not going to try it, but don't get your hopes up. So I'm not really sure what else we're talking about.
You've crushed my dreams there, man. I'm just going to put it out there. I was hoping to find some way of making the sort of Lumia 800 design have a keyboard in it, and I know that's pretty much impossible. And I love the on-screen keyboard, but yeah, this is a bad moment.
No, I mean, I suck at the on-screen keyboard. Even on the Titan 2, I still have to yell at it sometimes. I'm just not that good. I need a physical keyboard. So I would love Nokia to have a slider, but it would have to be really done right, and they could. Don't get me wrong. Nokia is one company that probably could really wow us with a slider. Maybe they'll try. And we're not, I just said defy, supposedly one phone, but there's 2 others. We don't know what those 2 other phones are yet. So, we're already sort of slamming the door here on Nokia and doing something different. We don't know what those other 2 devices are.
Yeah.
So
but it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, one of those could be like a totally new sliding keyboard, twisting, transforming device with 3 screens. I doubt it, but, let's just wait. We only got a couple more weeks left, and we'll certainly find out. And even if people are disappointed with what's shown at Nokia World in September, and I even got the vibe from Nokia that don't get your hopes up too much for September, that just means that because couple months later, they'll introduce new phones and then introduce other phones. And it's just going to go on for the next couple months. They're going to introduce new devices as they come online. So let's not just, go too crazy with this stuff.
Cool. Let's move on because we've talked that one to death. Metro. Sorry, we can't say that anymore. What are we going to call it now?
So this is sort of a big deal, right? So the Metro thing is evidently Microsoft was approached by Metro AG, a German company, who said, hey, that's our name. You can't really use that. And then Microsoft supposedly is now scrubbing everything and not referring to it as Metro. And it's raised an interesting discussion. What should they, supposedly they would come up with another name, which then we asked our audience, well, what would you call it? And once again, like all things marketing, there's huge disagreement. I know people make it sound like so obvious, but let me tell people, go back a couple years ago when you heard Metro, I guarantee you're going to find a lot of negative comments like going Metro. That's so stupid. It sounds like metrosexual. Now that it's like, caught on, everybody's in love with it all of a sudden. It's like, I don't want to be like, oh, the hipsters, but
God.
It's true. I mean, the fact is that Metro wasn't like an awesome name 2 years ago that people were like, oh, that's so great. It's only now that people are just universally in love with it. Now they're getting rid of it. And the idea of coming up with a replacement is very difficult because not everybody's going to agree on it. And there's going to be perfectly, good disagreement. It's the same reason why advertising is difficult because it's opinion. It's like looking at art. And so another question is, so what are they going to call it? Some people are like, well, they shouldn't just call it anything. Which I find that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard because Metro has design principles. They actually have charts and everything describing what they mean. How could you have principles for something and then not have a name for what you're talking about? That's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. How are you supposed to tell developers to go and make something and just give them these random principles like, oh, in our design stuff, here are our principles. I mean, come on, grow up already. This is retarded. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, no, that's fine. You get your rant out, mate. I love this story, but for all the wrong reasons, because it's just like, and everyone in the chat room is warning us not to say Metro because we might get sued. Metro. But effectively, I just like the fact that Metro AG took 2 years to say, oh, wait a second, that's us. It's been around for 2 years. I know that, yes, it's getting more motion now that we're moving things into Windows 8. What I really, really hope is that it doesn't end up being called Windows Phone 8 style UI or Windows 8 style UI. I know that's temporary, but if it gets called that, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm just going to say it one more time. Metro. There you go. Let's talk about some of the options that, rather than dwelling on the fact that it's ridiculous, this whole situation, because nobody is going to walk into that store and think, oh, this is Metro UI. This store must have made this phone. No one's going to think that. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the options that we've got in our poll, and if you haven't already voted, you can go over there now and have a vote, is Current, Motion, Pure, Gen UI, Cosmo, and Microsoft Unity. Of those, I know that Pure would get turned down by legal team. Current will get turned down by legal team now that Google has that. Motion probably would be okay. Gen UI I don't particularly like, and Cosmo would probably get taken out by somewhere else. Unity might actually not be a bad idea, even though it doesn't really describe anything apart from the fact that Microsoft are just bringing everything together.
Right, but I suppose the other problem is that Unity is also a game engine.
Oh, there we go. Right, so that one's no good for me.
See, this is a problem. Of course, this is the issue that these companies need to deal with, which is one. So they have to deal with, does it sound good, and is it the sound? What do we want it to sound like? Then 2, anyone else own that name or have a trademark on it? And then 3, is that a kosher word in another language? So we deal with this all the time, right? It's like, oh, this is a great name, and then it's like everybody's like, oh, that means some animal's genitalia and some language I've never heard of. And
it's like the Bite Nuka bit in 30 Rock, if you ever watched that.
So this is obviously a tough thing. I'm not really sure. Pure is kind of interesting, although Nokia has their Pure headphones, I suppose.
Yeah, we've got Pure View, and there's also Pure radios. That's not going to fly.
Although they have a close relationship with Nokia, so I'm kind of okay with it. Motion ain't too bad either. That's I don't know.
I see motion at least captures part of what it stands for. I do like the fact that it captures the fact that, Microsoft are actually really big on transition, having moving UIs, despite the fact that the original SDK didn't offer very much support for that in a lot of cases. Having transitions was a big part of what they wanted to do. And I like the fact that that's been captured there. But it's... I haven't got the answer to this. I really don't know what Microsoft are going to do. It's for people who get paid for being that kind of creative, not for me to say.
And that's the thing with this. I think whatever we hear, whatever Microsoft gives us, even if it technically is a one-word, cool, descriptive thing, people are still going to be evenly divided because that's just the nature. In a year or two, everybody will love it probably. So
I've just realised if you say Metro really quickly, like I've been doing, it sounds kind of like a 90s disco thing. It's like Metro. So I'm going to be doing that every now and again just for fun.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Windows Phone Dev Center replaces the App Hub. So this was a big change, not just a name change, of course, a lot of new features. I'll let you take this one because you probably know more than I do. I just want to say from the outset, I like the new name. I think the Dev Center, Developer Center, sounds a lot better than App Hub, which I just sounded stupid. I don't know. So I kind of like all this new.
It made sense. It was the hub, and we had hubs in Windows Phone. So why not have an application?
I just still think it sounded bizarre. I think Dev Center sounds more because why don't it be made games?
Sorry, I'm just going to make a point of this. This podcast already is sound like we're giving advice on marketing, but it's the worst advice ever for what to name things. That one just sounds rubbish.
I'm giving Microsoft credit here. I like the name change. I like everything. I'm glad they abandoned Live. I like the new Essentials without Live. I like all their new stuff. I like Outlook.com is pretty awesome, which we'll get to in a sec. But anyways, go on. Tell us the new features, why devs are interested in this stuff, and what the big deal is.
Okay, so in terms of new features, there's not an awful lot yet to talk about. The stuff that I've so far found out is that there's a couple of changes into how you upload your application. For example, when you upload your app now, it tells you the things that it's automatically worked out. For instance, whether or not your app is compatible with Windows Phone 8. Developers are now being told that as of anything they upload from this point on, you'll be told if it'll be compatible with Windows Phone 8 in its current state, which is good news. They've changed the way that it works. It's a lot less Silverlighty and loads a lot quicker, and the design is very Metro. To go a bit further as to what you got, most importantly for me is the changes that they've made for people for actually signing up and dealing with taxes. So that used to be an absolute pain for anyone who lived outside the US, because you had to get a US tax identity, then you had to deal with a really complicated signing process where you had to send off actually a letter to Microsoft with a form. That's all now done online. You can sign the form and can create the form with your local tax identity through the Dev Center, which is a huge improvement, and I can't tell you how much that's going to mean to developers outside the US. And they've also generally come up with sort of a slightly better way to look at how everything works. But in terms of new features, there's not that many. It just, when you upload your app, you can specify which advertising providers you're using, and by the looks of things, you can easily add in advertising providers. The Dev Center is now linked to Pub Center, which of course is Microsoft's advertising platform. The general statistics that you get back are a bit cleverer in that you see
how come they didn't call it Pub Hub?
Pub Hub. That is a very good point. And there's also a field now for in-app purchases. Of course, that's not going to be used just yet. We already had crash counts, and that's been added. And you can see, how many downloads you've had just for paid rather than for everything, which I like. Which actually also means I'm now going to do a quick refresh and have a look for how many downloads our app is now on, because I can. Yeah, in general, it's a really nice redesign. It brings it a bit more in line with the style that we were all expecting. What are we on now? 70,000. Awesome. So yeah, basically it's just a refinement. I'm not going to talk it up because anyone who's a developer will have already had a chance to have a look at it. Right. And I'm being prompted to renew my subscription, which means that I've got to start paying some money. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so in short, though, it's progress right in the right direction. Microsoft did a good job.
And it's making things really easy for the developers who don't live in the US, which was a really bad experience for developers previously. So it's good that they've made those steps.
I tell you, all these changes that's going on with Microsoft, and there's a ton of them. I don't think people necessarily appreciate everything that they're doing this year, including this massive rebranding campaign with all their services. But it's going well. Now let's move on to Outlook, right? This was a huge thing that came out this week, or actually last week, with the Outlook.com. We were talking about, okay, they're going to get rid of sort of Hotmail was phased out for the live stuff, and the live stuff is going to be phased out. But then the question was, well, what about live.com and your email? Like, what were they going to call it? And they ended up just going with Outlook, which it was like one of those brilliant things, right? It's like, oh yeah, there's a brand name they've owned for a long time, and it's actually not tarnished too much. And so it actually turned out really well. I love the new design, and I think everybody else loves the new design too. It's got so much good accolades from a lot of people. It's just cleaner looking. It's very, of course, Metro. I love the drop-down menu.
Metro.
Right. Sorry. And it's very just simple to use, and it's just a real joy, and it's got a good name to it. I don't know. I just think they did a really excellent job with this. It's got some new security features, which we covered, including the ability to use a 1Pass. So if you're logging onto a computer that you don't trust and you don't want to enter your password into, you can use a special thing. It'll send a code to your phone that you hopefully registered, and then you can use that one-time code to log in, and that's it. I kind of like that stuff. And so Microsoft's just done a really nice job with their services, and it's like, Outlook.com has a real chance now, I think, of becoming a dominant email player. I mean, technically they are, right? I mean, that's the dirty secret here. A lot of people don't realize that the Hotmail live mail system technically has more users than Gmail does, although there's been some discussion lately that Gmail has actually caught up and maybe even passed, but that's Google using their own internal numbers, which is kind of, may not be accurate. So I don't know. I like this. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really nice design. It's cleaner than Hotmail was, which is the most important thing for me because Hotmail was starting to look a bit cluttered. And I registered my Outlook.com email pretty much straight away. I think there is a slight issue in that it's going to confuse Outlook and sort of the mail clients because Outlook is a bit more enterprisey and actually, summarizes a lot of Outlook is quite sort of synonymous with Exchange and that kind of area and using it for business emails. So I can't decide if this is a good name change in terms of confusion or whether or not it's going to be, Outlook.com is one thing and using Outlook at work is a whole other thing. So
no, I think there was always Outlook Express, and I used Outlook for a long time on my home computer, back in the day. I think it would have been wrong and had they called it Exchange. I think that would have been more enterprisey, but Outlook was one of those terms where it could be enterprise or consumer. It was always a gray area for that service. And I think this finally kind of brings it back into the more consumer area. And I actually like the name. I think it's actually a smart branding. And I just think it looks great. It's not, I always found Hotmail cheesy. I just never, and Renee did a good job pointing out that I didn't really actually know this. Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, but Hotmail actually comes from HTML mail.
And that is true.
Yeah, and so I didn't really know that. That's where, because I always thought Hotmail was cheesy. Then it's like, it's still cheesy. But I like the explanation. It comes from HTML mail and Hotmail, so that's kind of interesting. But, I think.
So I like it. You finally found sort of consonance with Hotmail just as it's dying.
Well, I still
it's like you're talking to it on its deathbed.
But there's a reason why I wrote that tutorial on switching to live. A couple months ago, because I like live.com a lot better. I actually like outlook.com even better than that, but now I don't want to re-switch all my devices again. So I'll wait till maybe when this phone 8 comes out before I move to Outlook. But I did reserve my name already, so I should be okay for that. So I think Outlook's good. I tell you, all these new services, they're rebranding. I think it's smart. It's all coming together for Microsoft. They're doing just a really strong job. And I'm not saying that as like a fanboy of their products. I say that as someone who's skeptical, actually, of a lot of their products. But I really like where they're kind of pushing with all this. And having said that, let's move on to some apps because we're running a little long here.
We are, but we knew that would happen. Sorry, Renee.
Yeah, sorry.
So Sally's Spa. Let's talk about probably the most hotly anticipated game on Windows Phone this year, and if not the year before that. Sally is coming back for a second round of what is Daniel's absolute favorite game ever. He's going to get to paint more people pink. You don't just dye hair pink now, you can color nails pink. Daniel, tell me how wonderfully excited you are for Sally's Spa. Go.
I have to admit, Paul did a great job with getting a sneak preview of this. And I actually do like the new changes they made with everything bigger and stuff like that. I'm not sure I would still be playing this. I'll give it a go, though. But yeah, so the big deal, of course, it should have been out already today, but due to the marketplace changes and everything looks to be a little bit delayed. So we are expecting it any minute. As soon as we do get it, we'll go live on this site with it, of course. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll do a quick hands-on video if I'm around, too, to give you my very first impressions of this game. I know it's very popular, but we'll see. Can I actually just throw out my favorite Xbox Live I'm playing right now, which got an update recently, is Dodo Pachi Maximum, the bullet hell simulator that's out there. This game is so cool. I think it's just one of the best games out there. It's challenging, but it's not impossible. But I just like the graphics on it, and I think it just looks brilliant, and the voices and everything. It's one of my new favorite games. So in the update, it came out recently, I think made it a little bit easier with the self-exploding massive bombs that go off. So if you want to go try a cool Xbox Live game, just try that one. Practice for a little while. You can figure it out. It's not too hard to dodge all the bullets, but The other game that came out, Pool Pro Online 3. I've only played this for a couple minutes, mostly because the computer always kicks my butt on it. It's kind of bad, but I like it. I think it's kind of cool looking. What do you think about it?
I only played it briefly as well. I haven't had a chance yet to play it multiplayer, and that's what I really wanted to try. Sure. What is sort of the most important thing for me is the fact that it's a huge online game, which is theoretically going to allow me to play pool with like my dad or someone. In fact, you and I should set up a game so we can test the multiplayer on it. That's what I was really keen to see. So far, graphics look good. Physics engine looks decent. As you said, AI is pretty balls hard actually, but for the most part, it's looking really, really good. I will play it more this week, hopefully, now that I've got a bit of time off, and I'll come back maybe next podcast and be like, that's the best game ever. But Paul put up his review today, and by the looks of things, he was quite keen on it. So I'm going to take that as a good sign, because usually if Paul says a game is good, it's really good. And if Paul says a game is okay, then he's being nice about it.
True. Yeah, he did a really nice review of that. So he had some issues with it, but for the most part, he did like that game a lot. So 6:27 a.m. Beautiful alarm app. I don't use
gorgeous.
Alarm apps a lot. Yeah. I don't use alarm apps a lot because I don't keep my phone by my bed. Not that into my phone, but I know a lot of people use their phones as alarm, and this is a great one to take a look at, especially since it's free. Although, as I point out, I would gladly have given money for the developer. I do use this as an alarm when I travel, so I'm not.
It's brilliant, and it works really well.
Yeah, it does.
Not to mention that the thing actually wakes me up better than the default Nokia alarm does.
Yeah, mine went off the other day. I forgot I had it off, and I heard it in the next room. I was like, wait, what the hell's going on? And I was like, oh, that's right. I made that video. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful app, just really well designed and a lot of cool features and just really smart and intuitive. So, that's a quality app right there for Windows Phone.
And it's one of those ones that's been carefully thought about, because you've got things like on the front, I've got now, no alarm scheduled tomorrow. Have a good rest. And
I love that, right? Yeah.
What a nice little thing for the app to say.
Yeah. It's just little things that devs need to do in apps that make it a great experience. It actually feels like it's well thought out. So 6:27 a.m. Go try it. Like I said, it's free and you just can't beat it. WhatsApp will BRB. I like this one, Jay. That's pretty funny. WhatsApp, controversial app because some people love it, or actually I think most people tolerate WhatsApp. The idea behind WhatsApp is everybody uses it reluctantly because everybody else uses it, which isn't necessarily a strong endorsement for a service. It's sort of like how everybody used AIM years ago. And because everybody else had AIM, and that was the only reason we all used it. I'm not a fan of WhatsApp as much. I think it's okay, but I like Kik myself a little bit better. But WhatsApp disappeared from the marketplace. We don't know why. And then all of a sudden we got big screenshots of their Windows Phone 8 version, which looks like the current version, except bigger. So actually, funny story, WhatsApp got mad at us for writing this little rumor story that the app was pulled due to security reasons. Now, it's funny because WhatsApp wouldn't bother returning our emails when we asked them what happened with their app and what's going on with it. They didn't even respond. And then they did respond once we ran a story that supposedly was pulled due to security issues. They're like, that's so not true. Don't spread rumors and things about us. And we're like, why didn't you respond initially? Like, we could have clarified. And evidently they can't tell us why the app was pulled. So people are wondering, it's a confidentiality agreement between them and Microsoft. Bureaucracy. It's beautiful, right? So there you go. We don't know what's going on with WhatsApp or when it'll return, but is something sinister happened in the background, or perhaps not sinister. So
it's fantastic. After all this story, we can now boil it down to WhatsApp has gone. We don't know why. There's no reason. Something has happened. Something will be resolved, and then for some reason it'll come back.
Yeah, and it'll evidently be back for Windows Phone 8. So,
it's a really fact-rich story there.
And we tried. I mean, what else did we do? It's like, companies need to get better PR. In fact, I'm doing an interview with Alan from the ad publishing SDK out there. Anyways, he's asking about what do devs?
The one that we use that I forgot. Ad Duplex.
Yeah, Ad Duplex, right? Sorry, I'm not good at the advertising stuff. But anyways, he's asking about this stuff about like what devs, what they do right and what they do wrong with as far as reaching out to media and, publications like ourselves. WhatsApp has done a pretty lousy job of reaching out to us for PR control. So I'm just going to throw that out there. We like them. We would like to have a better relationship. But if you don't want people saying
does a really good job with us, don't they?
Yeah, Kik has been pretty good. Although I'd still like to see some more updates and improvements to that app too. But I think it handles pretty well. So hopefully we'll have more on that soon. Armed version 1.6 is out with lots of tweaks. This is a massive change here. Armed is a pretty awesome game out there if you have time to sit down and play it. There's also a Windows 8 version, which is pretty great. Don't get your hopes up for an Xbox Live version. I think the developers are pretty smart with this, which is that they like the idea of just doing direct updates and controlling their own destiny here without going through the bureaucracy of Xbox Live. That's a shame. For two reasons. One, the game kind of deserves to be Xbox Live status. I think everybody agrees with that. The problem is the Xbox Live thing is pretty messed up for developers. And you hear lots of horror stories with the long process it takes to get certified. And then the weird thing is, consumers, of course, as we get games like Mini Squadron, right, which come out with bugs and then disappear from the marketplace. And you're wondering, like, what, how great of a system really is this, right? And that's a shame. The Xbox Live system has potential to be really great. It is great in a lot of ways, but it still just seems like a bureaucratic nightmare that scares off developers from wanting to even attempt to get their games into that system. And we saw that this week with Farm Frenzy 2, right? So Farm Frenzy 2 had a bug, and it's getting fixed apparently. And they ended up releasing like sort of an extension game, Farm Frenzy 2 Pizza something, and they just bypassed the whole Xbox Live thing and released it directly because of that reason. And that's just the shame that you see devs doing that. It's the opposite of what they should be achieving, right? They should be wanting to go, no, we want Xbox Live status. But the better experience, of course, I think end users is just...
They have got the ability to do sort of Windows Live status, because obviously there's going to be that whole new achievement situation coming in with Windows 8 games, isn't there? That's something that we've seen recently. So they might be able to bring out some kind of achievement platform there rather than going Xbox Live. I don't know.
Oh, and there are. Third-party game developers do have their own ability to do, their own achievement lists. They can do that. There are third-party companies out there, and so a lot of games have their own achievements and that emulate the Xbox Live stuff. But for people who, are completionists like Paul, it doesn't matter because they want their Xbox Live, gamer score stuff. So, but Armed, go play it. Good update. We got to start wrapping up here before Renee starts throwing things.
Yeah. Can we pick out one just from the rest before Renee kills us? And that's the build situation. Build sold out in an hour. What?
Yeah.
I didn't have the money ready yet.
Yeah. So Build 2012, second one, right? This is the second Build conference. It's replacing also, or it's merging with Mix, to cover basically everything that Microsoft does. It's going to be pretty massive. You got Windows, you got Xbox, Windows Phone, you have Azure, you have, presumably Outlook and Exchange stuff. Everything that they do is basically kind of covered in this conference. We actually don't know how many people are allocated to go to this, right? So for all we know, it's a room of 300 people, and that's why it's sold out in an hour. Now, obviously, I'm being facetious. I doubt that's the case, but we honestly don't know what the numbers were. We just know, yes, that it sold out in an hour. That's very impressive. Google I/O sold out like in an hour as well. Although I think that might have been bigger. I'm not really sure. But that's what we'll have to find out is actually how many people are slotted to go to this. But it shows strong demand, at least for this conference, which wasn't cheap. I think it was $2,100 to go.
Yeah, the first 500 were $1,500 or something on that region. Yes. But, speaking of which, have we got much in the way of press passes? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm there.
Yeah. Is there one for me?
No.
Oh.
Sorry.
Damn
Raphael will be going too because Raphael has his own ins with Microsoft, so he gets his own.
Yeah.
From my understanding, I don't think many, media coverage was limited for this too. They're not going to allow you to bring a team of people with you. So every outlet, I think, gets only one or two opportunities. So, yes, I'll be there. Raphael will be there. Hopefully, we'll meet up to do dual coverage for this site. But the build is going to be massive. We expect it's going to be coming at a weird time, too. It's October 30th, so it's going to overlap Halloween, which should be kind of fun. But at the same time, Windows Phone 8 should be just about to come out at that point. Windows 8 desktop would have already just been out for about 2 days. And so it's kind of weird. It's actually coming out. The conference is coming after the products are basically hitting the shelves, which then raises the question, what are they really talking about? We already have the SDKs and that kind of thing, presumably by that point. So I don't know. What do you think about this?
Build in general or?
Yeah, well, the timing with it seems like, what are they going to talk about there that we already don't know or won't know by October 30th?
I think that, I mean, as you said, Windows Phone's only a small part of build. They're going to talk an awful lot about that. Basically, I think that Azure will be the big thing that they're going to push. They're going to talk about cloud services and the idea of building your cloud service on Azure and paying them rent money, and then creating a Windows Phone and Windows 8 app that's going to link into that. That'll be something that they're really keen to push. Probably the same sort of idea again of hooking up Internet Explorer to the cloud services. I don't know what they'll do with Office or Xbox there. Again, the theory is it can all be linked together. In terms of what we'll see for Windows Phone, what's the date of the event again? Just remember the exact dates.
October 30th.
So October 30th, that's the one. So yes, theoretically, Windows Phone 8, we'll probably have heard, as you say, a lot of devices. I think we'll hopefully have that'll be around the time the Surface is about to be released. It's probably just an event. The timing is probably just to build anticipation, to get everyone excited about the devices that are out now. I'd expect to see probably some services will be giving that to you lucky guys who are attending. And I think that we'll end up with. I think we'll end up with. Yeah, I think we'll end up with Surfaces out, and this is what Windows Phone 8 is going to look like. And Windows Phone 8 will be about a month off, I reckon, because we'll probably see it released in November. That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, I think it'll just be a big hype up event.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see.
Gutted that I'm not going.
Yep. Sorry, Jay. It's very expensive to fly you out all the way here.
I know. I could pay for the flights. I just said.
Anyways, let's go to community comments from last time. Do you have those?
I do. I'm just about to send off a quick thing. Yep. So comments from last time were mostly relating to Nokia or asking us why we didn't like Canada. So we'll just clarify that. Last week we said that there was lag issues and we were blaming Canada. That's not Canada the country. That's just Renee for being Canadian. Moving that on. The other comments that we got were people agreeing basically with what we're talking about for disruptive technology. A comment here from John1506. You guys put it right. I think Nokia needs to come out ammoed up and swinging like a windmill to create the next mass movement of users on different platforms to Windows Phone. I think disruptive technology causes hype and excitement. So getting things like PureView or NFC wallets is a must if Windows Phone is to excite the public and entice them into buying a Windows Phone because of companionship. With Windows 8 and Xbox. But MS needs to work on the software side of things to bring some weight into Windows Phone by making technology more exclusive in terms of feature set, not restrictive to make people feel like they're being forced to buy a Windows Phone for the features they need, but more of a complementary set of features. That's a long comment, but the general gist is that disruptive technology is good, and we need to see sort of exclusive features that will entice people there but not restrict them. But I also think Microsoft are correctly focusing on making sure that people can develop for Windows Phone at the same time as other areas. As other platforms.
Yeah.
That was mostly, that was all the comment we really got. Oh, and Samu said, I really like your misanthropy, Daniel. I have no idea what that word even means, so I'm not going to try.
Misanthropy is the hatred of, it comes from anthropoid, man. It's hatred of man.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you hate men and love cats.
Yes, just a misanthropic anthropoid, if any bad religion fans are out there.
Okay,
so lots of skills, lots of years of hitting on people and things in general. Anyways, some questions and comments in our chat room right now. Someone asked, I believe that was Sam, about any more events coming up for Microsoft and talking about Windows Phone 8 for consumers. It's a good question, and I believe so. I believe before October 30th, there should probably be another event, Windows Phone events. We'll partly see this, of course, in Nokia world, right? They're going to be talking about Windows Phone 8 and those devices. And so, I believe Microsoft will have another event sometime soon where they're going to sort of really reveal Windows Phone 8 for consumers and show off that stuff. There may be Nokia world, that may be a separate event, but expect something before October 30th. But it won't be a developer conference thing, right? That's going to be all under the build category from now on, I suspect.
They have mentioned there'll be local developer events with build and a big internet experience. So we'll see if that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, no, we heard that too, right, from Microsoft, that there will be these local events. They did it before with Mango, and they'll do it again for Windows Phone 8, where they'll go around the country and set up little meetings for developers to attend where they can sort of learn about stuff. So, expect those two probably in the next couple of weeks, I imagine. So.
What else have we got questions-wise? Surface. So we'll go first. Will Outlook 2013 be able to sync with Windows Phone 8? Very good question. It probably will, because I expect that the Outlook.com and Microsoft account system that you'll be able to add through Outlook 2013 will obviously sync up to the existing live services, and that already does sync with Windows Phone. So yes, is my prediction. What else have we got? Someone was asking if there's going to be any more Connect games on Windows Phone. I think eventually, but I think they kind of tried and failed with that whole integration. I don't really think that
that was
the
pretty
Connect does work.
Yeah, let's pretend that whole thing didn't happen back in February 2011. God, that was so annoying. That's an example of where Microsoft comes out. I mean, this is probably the problem, right? Where they don't like to announce features before they're ready. Obviously, it didn't come to pass. But let's be clear, Kinect is one of the top-selling consumer devices in world history. So Microsoft knows it's got a hit on its product. Yes, it will integrate with Windows Phone. We won't see it probably with Windows Phone 8, but the notion of shrinking these sensors down into the phone is going to be something that'd be huge. I do believe with Windows Phone 8, we will see some interaction with Xbox and whatever the new Xbox 720, whatever that will be called. They'll be more tightly integrated with that. Sure. It'd be stupid not to do that. I don't think they are stupid. I think they want to do it right, though, and I think the technology is a little bit complicated. But definitely expect this whole Connect thing to, it's going to be like Skype. It will work its way into all their products, but it's going to take a little bit of time. So, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Rodri asks, is the Surface going international and not just US only? Which is actually a really good question. We believe, yes, it's going international. I don't know if it's going to launch at the same time, though. I'm really hoping it does, but I don't think we're going to have a worldwide launch. If someone wants to correct me on that, that's fine. They
don't do worldwide launches. They do worldwide rollouts. And so it's determined because, ultimately, Microsoft released Windows Phone 8, right? Or they're about to all their OEM partners. That's them. They've released it, RTM. That's what that means. Then it's up to the OEMs to make the phones with the OS on board, and then it's up to them to negotiate contracts with carriers, and then it's up to the carriers to decide the actual time when they're going to sell it. Microsoft actually has no input on that. So the idea of a worldwide rollout is very difficult. A release, but a rollout is obviously plausible, but that could take a couple weeks. I'd say from 4 to 8 weeks, you'll see it expand. This happened the last 2 times where devices came out in Europe first, and then it came to the United States, and AT&T, of course, will release like 3 or 4 phones at the same time. So expect the same pattern again. It's unfortunate, but that's the system we live in.
What else do we have? Someone's just asked Dr. Doofenshmirtz, I'm not going to do this, probably am I? Dr. Doofenshmirtz, that'll do. Are we sure 7.8 is coming after 8? We are about 90% sure that 7.8
I would say more than that. I talked to Nokia recently, an executive, and confirmed it's coming after. So yes, you can bet on that. That's going to make a lot of people angry, and understandably so. I don't, blame you guys for that. But yeah, expect 7.8 after 8. So I wouldn't expect it till November, December. I think anything before then. Now, the good news about that is maybe they're going to throw more stuff in there, right? I think 7.8, my guess on this, I don't know this for a fact, but 7.8 I think was really last minute. I think they literally threw that together within the last couple months, which is why
when they realized everyone really needed an upgrade path.
Yeah. I think it was a last minute decision that some of the OEMs were kind of like, come on, we got to do something here. So Microsoft could say we can do this, and I think that's why they're hedging on is there more to 7.8 than just the start screen. I still want to just tell people to expect the start screen, but being it's going to take a few months, that maybe there might be more. I honestly don't know. But I think 7.8, which is why 7.8 doesn't even have a code name, right? And it still doesn't have a code name. But I think it's because this was very last minute that they kind of.
Maybe 7.8 is Apollo. They just haven't really told us yet.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Kevin Wheeler has asked, what are they going to do with Windows 8 and Windows Phone syncing wirelessly? As I said to him in the chat room, I wish I knew. We can be relatively certain that, seeing as there was wireless sync with Zune, that there will be some form of wireless sync with Windows Phone and Windows 8. I'd really like to see some proper wireless syncing that would involve maybe some kind of either NFC to tap the phone to a tablet and then have it sync up, have the option to sync over Bluetooth or over Wi-Fi. I think that it will be a huge miss. But then again, saying that, how much syncing will they necessarily need apart from being able to transfer music and my photos and stuff? The rest of it will just be done over the cloud as it is. So
I think it's safe to think of Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 as companion devices, and that they're going to work in tandem like that. So we talked about this before, the notion that when your phone is paired up with your computer running Windows 8, your contacts will be one and the same, and you can pull them up. You can pull up email off your phone, and you'd probably be able to even SMS directly to your computer through your phone. It's going to be that type of an integration, and I think it's for obvious reasons. I mean, they share a lot of the same core, the kernel. And of course, they made the connections a lot more, similar between the two. It doesn't mean you can't do that stuff on Windows 7, but I think the prime experience will be on Windows 8. So that's going to be real interesting to see how those two do work together. But expect, I think, tight integration between those. And think of them as companions, not even just a sync relationship, but as a companion device.
Three more questions I'm going to pick up, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. So the first one that I was going to pick up, Sebastian and Boa, keeps asking, what about the Nokia Lambda? The fee was leaked at the same time as with WP Bench. We don't know anything about the Nokia Lambda, so I might as well skip over that because we just don't have any information on it, do we?
It could be real, it could be fake. I honestly don't know. A lot of those names, there's a flood of them. It's still tough to discern. I think just hold on, right? We got a couple more weeks before Nokia World, and we'll be able to figure that stuff out then. Yeah. And I'm sure there'll be more leaks up to Nokia World. So, sit tight.
Yep. Second question comes from Gigantuaus, who asks, do we know if the OEMs can customize more than with Windows Phone 7.5? We don't. I would expect that Nokia will have probably got a bit more customization involved with their Windows Phone 8 devices. But I don't think we have any real information about how much customization is possible. Do we?
No.
Okay.
They get more options with the camera stuff. They get more options with hardware, and that's where the customizations come in. But they won't touch the UI as much. So, it's going to be the OEMs are happier with Windows Phone 8 because of the hardware choices they get. So, expect that, but don't expect that much difference for it. They won't be any changes to the UI. That's still under control.
And the last one I'm going to pick up is from Danny Sufi, who earlier was asking where the forums had gone for Windows Phone developers at the new Dev Center. It's under the community section, just the first question to answer. And the second one he asked is, will the Windows Phone 8 developer kit be only Windows 8 restricted? I can answer this relatively accurately now. We don't know if the actual SDK will work on Windows 7. What we do know is that the emulator won't work on Windows 7. The emulator, in fact, requires Hyper-V to be installed, which means that you'll need to have a 64-bit version of Windows 8, and you'll also need to have either Intel i7, i5 or i3 series or later, or an AMD Phenom series or later to be able to run Hyper-V. I did an article about this if you want to look back as just search Hyper-V on the site, but effectively there is a set of hardware requirements for virtualization of the Windows Phone 8 emulator. That doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to develop it without those hardware requirements, because in theory you could hook up a Windows Phone 8 device and just develop straight onto that. So I'm going to say that there's a chance you'll be able to do that with Windows 7 as well, just hook up a device and develop away, but at this point, I would say Windows 8 with 64-bit will be required for most developing, if not all.
Yep. Unfortunate, but there you go. All right, let's wrap it up. We'll do the credits. You can find us all on Twitter at WPCentral. Of course, you can find myself at Daniel_Rubino. You can follow George, who's back from vacation, at CopperTop004. Rich Edmonds, at Rich Edmonds. Jay, of course, is at JT Bennett. Make sure you put that T in there. Paul at SegaCon. We have Raphael, who is busy getting ready for his move and /in meetings, so he's apologizing he can't be here today. We've missed him dearly. You can find him at Within Raphael. Matt, who just got married recently, is on honeymoon and getting his life sorted, is at Rogue Code. And then Dave, who's in charge of our forums, is busy in there. You can follow him at Big D5 or Big_D5, sorry. And of course, there is Robert, our new writer, who's at Groove Point. This has been Mobile Nations Podcast. Go to mobilenations.com for more great shows covering everything mobile, or head over to WPCentral Forums if you'd like to get involved with our community. It is the largest forum out there on the internet for Windows Phone, so make sure you participate. Lots of fun stuff going on there. And thanks for the WP Central Store for sponsoring our podcast. And then the great artists who do our intro and outro music, which at ccmixture.org. Also, make sure you check out, we have a deal of the week this week for the Lumi 900 on that case, which is a pretty cool case for $10. Go check out my little review. I did it for it yesterday, the Amzer holster. Anyways, it's a good deal. So there you go. We'll be back hopefully maybe even next week, if not the week after. And thank you for joining us. Send us your questions. Take care, everybody.